the mountainous country of Austria lies at the crossroads of Europe, bridging east and west. We'll begin our travels in Bregenz and then visit the town of Scheruns. Bregenz, situated on Lake Constance, is the capital city of this region, one of the most prosperous in all of Austria. Its textile factories employ many of its 25,000 inhabitants. From its lakeside location, excursion boats travel across the lake to Germany and Switzerland. Sightseers are drawn here by an outstanding setting and a climate so mild, tropical plantings thrive. Above the lake on a hillside, the old section of Bregenz traces its beginnings back to Roman times. Its cobblestone streets and well-preserved homes provide an excellent setting where many Bregenzers prefer to live. Well, while these children play, work goes on at a nearby embroidery factory where giant machines produce fabrics for export. Every hour, one modern machine, such as this one, can embroider some 45 square yards of material. Well, just to the south of Bregenz and unknown to many American travelers is the spectacular Montafon Valley. For centuries, this area has been a center for dairy farming and agriculture. And while during the summer months the cows are up in the higher pasture, the hay, to prevent rotting, must be periodically turned. Newer housing here now shares the landscape with traditional old homes where the barn is attached to the family dwelling. In contrast to the unembellished facade of the family quarters, the barn next door is decorated with intricate wood carvings, a sign of the farmer's wealth. The village of Scheruns is not only the important market center of this valley, but in recent years has become an outstanding ski resort. In summer months, too, visitors are charmed by the interesting buildings in Baroque style, which combine in harmony with those of the market plots. Innsbruck, Kufstein, and Kitzbühel, three cities in the Tyrolian Alps. The city of Innsbruck has become synonymous with skiing. In fact, twice the Winter Olympics have been held here. Innsbruck is capital of the province called Tyrol. Its main street, Maria Theresienstrasse, is named after the beloved Empress of the Habsburgs. This building was built by the Empress and served as her palace in the late 1700s. Maria Theresa, in addition to being mother of 16 children, managed to solidify loosely bound feudal states into a unified empire. The old quarter with its shops and restaurants attracts visitors to Innsbruck. This is where one will find the characteristic pulse of the city, where the life of today bumps head-on with that of the past. On this street, the Helbling House, once owned by a wealthy merchant, presents a fascinating study in Rococo adornment. Across the square is probably the best-known attraction, the little golden roof. It dates back to the 1500s and the reign of Emperor Maximilian, a great outdoorsman who loved this city. He planned to be buried here, but his overspending of the city's treasury resulted in the officials locking the gates against him. Throughout this Catholic country, and especially here in the Tyrol, the signs of faith are displayed alongside the road. Replenishing such statues and creating new works is the occupation of Romet Speckbacher. A lifetime of practice, a trained eye, and a steady hand combine to produce a life-size form. Months may be spent in the planning and preliminary shaping, and more in the refining and finishing. Time does not matter to this artist, only the creation of a work that is worthy. While traveling south of Innsbruck, we enter a strikingly beautiful area of mountain scenery, the Stubai Valley, surrounded by some 80 glaciers. Even in summer months, stormy weather can bring snow to this elevation, and year-round operation of the gondolas gives us an indication of the interest in summer skiing here. While some simply glide down the mountain, others who've mastered the art of trick skiing display a more unique form. Kufstein is well known for its medieval fortress, an amazing organ housed in this tower. The 5-minute concert is presented daily at noon and 6 p.m. during the warm season and can be heard in the city street directly below the fortress. The organ was installed in the 1930s to commemorate the soldiers of World War I. Nearby, a walking street offers shoppers some of the locally manufactured products. Well, one such product is the fine handmade crystal produced in the Meadow glass factory. In this operation, the molten glass is centrifugally spun in a steel mold. The external detail of the bowl is created by machining the design into the metal. After the glass has cooled enough to remove it, the bowl is then taken to a belt furnace where it will then be annealed to remove the internal stresses. For over 225 years and 10 generations, the same family has operated the Meadow glass factory, producing unusual designs of the highest quality. Nearby, the village of Tiersey has over the past been host to an unusual event. Every 6 years during the summer months, a passion play is presented. And in preparation for the performance, the townspeople gather. This tradition goes back many years to the first presentation held in the early 1800s. According to custom, the play's characters are cast from the local townspeople. Christian Bickler, an employee of the local post office, is one of the actors. And Christian's childhood dream becomes reality as he portrays Christ in his confrontation with Pilate. This commitment fulfills a pledge by the people of Tiersey who vow to present the play every 6 years. Above Tiersey, herdsmen who've been attending their cows in the high alpine pastures all summer now prepare to bring them down to the valley as winter approaches. In celebration of a successful season and abundant grazing, the cows are adorned with headdresses made by the farmers' wives. Well, these cows are going along with this thing, but their hearts just don't seem to be in it. While the cows are up on the mountainside grazing, the farmers down below are preparing hay to last through the winter months. This hay has been drying here for weeks and is now ready to be removed. Stacking the hay on specially constructed poles allows it to dry out, preventing mildew. The portable poles are constructed by the farmers themselves during the winter months and can be transported for use in various locations. Every member of the family works on this project, for once the hay is pulled from the racks, it must be quickly collected before the ever-threatening rain showers arrive. All is not work for the Austrian. There's fun to be had at the world-famous ski resort of Kitzbühel, host to a summer festival. No need to wash the schnapps cup. The drink itself is strong enough to kill any germ. And if you don't believe me, just watch her expression. Goulash, goulash. That's what they're selling, and that's what they're cooking in this converted stove that looks like part of an army tank. Everybody in Austria is crazy about the goulash. Well, almost everybody. Salzburg, St. Wolfgang, and Bad Ischl, 3 cities rich in musical heritage. Salzburg, an incomparable city, where the creative forces of music and art combine in perfect harmony. Known as the German Rome, Salzburg was built by the church's powerful and wealthy prince-bishops. Settling here along the river in the 9th century, they soon gained control of the nearby salt mines. With the wealth produced from mining, Salzburg became an ecclesiastical showplace. The fortress was the stronghold from which the bishops exercised spiritual as well as secular power. It was also a retreat from the countless wars that swept throughout this area. During peaceful interludes, the residence palace situated below the fortress was home to the bishops. In keeping with the spiritual tone of the city, a great cathedral styled in Italian Renaissance was built here in the 1600s. It can accommodate 10,000 standing worshipers. The Yellow Building in 1756 was birthplace of the great composer Mozart. Strolling down these narrow walking streets, we find streets lined with patrician buildings hundreds of years old. They now house shops and restaurants, many identified with a distinguishing wrought iron sign. If McDonald's can't satisfy your appetite, many culinary treats await you at the St. Rupert's Festival. This celebration honors the patron saint of the city, who is credited with founding St. Peter's Church in the 8th century. In honor of St. Rupert, the Mozart plots is background for festivities, many going back to the rural culture of farm life, so predominant in the history of this region. Away from the hustle and bustle of the city, but in view of the fortress, Mirabel Gardens was laid out in an 18th century Baroque style. Visitors can find quiet relaxation surrounded by natural beauty and artistic creations. After a breather, it's time to attend a performance at the nearby Marionette Theater. Here we meet Gretel Eicher. Since childhood, she has been a puppeteer. She learned the art from her grandfather. The family developed the theater into one of the fine traditions of Salzburg. Now Gretel manages and directs the theater, and with her employees, designs and makes the elaborate puppets. My favorite is the Nutcracker Ballet. Outside of Salzburg, formal gardens surround the Palace of Hellbrunn. Built in the 1600s, the design was strongly influenced by the palatial villas of Italy. Marcus Sidicus, then Archbishop of Salzburg, brought Italian designers to create the atmosphere of a Roman theater. Neptune sits before a table that, at a signal from the Archbishop, would release a spray of water, drenching his guests seated at dinner. Such games continued as the guests toured the grounds, dodging sprays which were released without warning, providing great entertainment for the Archbishop. Another amusement for the guests was a mechanical theater entirely driven by water power. It was carved by a salt worker and represents the everyday life of burghers and craftsmen in a small village. Another palace nearby, Leopoldskron, became famous in the film The Sound of Music. Like Hellbrunn, it was built with a vast wealth produced from salt mining in these surrounding mountains. So extensive are the deposits, many of the mines have been continuously producing salt over the past 4,000 years. Relics dating back to that early era have been uncovered here at Dürnberg. In the tradition of mining, all visitors must put on protective coveralls before descending into the salt chambers. The same type of electric-powered trains used by the miners to cover the extensive network of tunnels in the mine carries visitors toward the interior of the mountain. Inside are vast salt deposits remaining from an inland sea that once covered this area. The salt is extracted by making a brine solution, which is then piped to a nearby evaporating plant. An interesting facet of old mining technology are the wooden slides used by the miners to descend from one level to another. This would be no place for a splinter. Many years ago, salt was transported by barges across this lake. This region of lakes is called Salzkammergut, which means literally good salt chamber. Today, the prosperity of this area is based more on tourism, and St. Wolfgang, with its 15th century church, is one of the major attractions. The church has over the centuries attracted pilgrims, and accordingly the town's hospitable accommodations were developed to receive them. Because of its picturesque location, St. Wolfgang became the setting for the famous operetta, The White Horse Inn. The inn has been in continuous operation by the same family since 1712. Further east, another lake is setting for a totally different tradition. Inspired by a profusion of wildflowers, the Narcissus Festival is held every June on the Grundlsee. Imaginative floats decorated with flowers are entered into the competition. The name of the flower comes from the Greek god Narcissus. According to legend, he was so vain, the other gods wanted to punish him. This they did by making him fall in love with his own reflection in a pool. He became so enamored with himself, he refused to leave the pond, and when he died, he was transformed into the flower we call Narcissus. On the day preceding the event, the perishable blossoms are cut in the mountain meadow and immediately assembled. Then, when the parade is over, the floats are dismantled, allowing further enjoyment of the cut flowers. This area 100 years ago was hunting domain of the Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph. At Bad Ischl, the Kaiser Villa was his summer palace. The palace, owned by the Habsburg family, was presented to the emperor as a wedding gift in 1854. As an avid sportsman, Franz Joseph spent over 60 summers here, hunting and relaxing, as well as conducting the affairs of state. Open to visitors, the villa now houses possessions of that popular ruler. Great-grandson Marcus Habsburg and his wife reside here and often entertain guests. Assisted by Mrs. Habsburg, Marcus, now the sole owner of the property, actively manages the estate. During the reign of Franz Joseph, Bad Ischl became a fashionable center of European court life. Elegant spas, such as this one, have been developed in recognition of the curative properties of the mineral waters found here. The combination of resort and royalty attracted crowned heads, actors, writers, painters, and musicians. One such person who settled here was the Hungarian composer Franz Lehár, best known for his opera, The Merry Widow. His charming villa, located along the river, now houses a museum and is open to the public. Bad Ischl is perfect in size, small enough to be friendly and yet large enough to offer some attractive shopping. Here, dirndl dresses, especially popular in small villages, are sold. In fact, they're manufactured right here in Bad Ischl. At the Lodenfrei factory, designers and production people are involved in selecting styles for the next season. Gertrude Westnauer, sales and production manager, has been with the company for 12 years. Klaus Maas is stylist of the women's line, while Margaret Stuckschweiger is in charge of converting the designs into patterns. Based on his knowledge of the Austrian folk costume, Klaus designs adaptations into marketable and popular styles. Color coordination relates to traditional shades and patterns, which change only slightly from year to year. And yet, each season, a new line must be introduced. A good quality dirndl dress such as made here will retail for about $150. Because style changes are infrequent, this is still considered to be a good value. After the designs are completed, Margaret transforms them into patterns, which are then sent to the factory for cutting the cloth. Next, we'll see a festival at Wels, the spa at Bad Hall, and the St. Florian Abbey. At Wels, a celebration brings together some 2,000 women displaying historical costumes and their golden hats. Hundreds of years ago, only the wealthy were allowed to wear these golden hats, and so a status symbol of yesterday, today rekindles an interest in hat making. Woven of thin golden wire, the materials alone will cost over $300. The skill of working the wire is taught in classes where each individual designs and completes her own hat. The celebration at Wels commemorates the founding of the city in the 10th century. Hundreds of years later, invention of the printing press ushered in a new era of progress, and the Typesetters Guild developed special status. At Wels, the fountain was setting for an unusual custom. Even today, apprentices becoming journeyman printers are recipients of a traditional and very special award. And when the ceremony is over, it's time to get everybody into the act. And so tradition lives on as a new class graduates. A totally different ceremony takes place nearby. In years past, many immigrated from the Slavic regions, bringing with them their customs and dances. The spa at Bad Hall attracts guests to its park-like setting to take special treatments from its strong iodine waters. A combination of rare elements in the mineral springs is also believed to help alleviate many degenerative diseases. Over 20,000 visitors come here every year seeking the cures and to enjoy the relaxed surroundings. Bad Hall has become especially recognized for iodine treatments for eye diseases. Eye baths, lasting up to 7 minutes and taken 3 times a week, are believed to help stimulate circulation. Mud packs with a high iodine content are applied to patients with arthritic conditions. The costs here at the center are relatively inexpensive. For example, this mud pack application is only about $8. And as one lady told me, that is dirt cheap. The Abbey of St. Florian was first established in the 10th century. Like all of the great monasteries of Austria, it became a center for learning and culture. Rebuilt in the 1700s, the abbey reflects the Baroque architecture of that period. Housed here are great works of art and manuscripts written throughout the ages. Named after a Roman who was converted to Christianity, the abbey is also recognized for the great church music of Anton Bruckner. Years after becoming a choir boy here, he returned as teacher and head organist. Now the famous instrument is played by Herr Kropsreiter, director of music. In keeping with the emphasis on sacred music, a choir school here has, over the years, been maintained at the Abbey. The choir boys, ages 10 to 14, live here during the school year. Part of that time, they are on tour and have been judged as one of the top 10 boys' choirs worldwide. our journey continues at Melk, the famous abbey overlooking the Danube River. The longest waterway in Central Europe, the river passes through 8 countries on its way to the Black Sea. Beginning a journey at Melk and traveling eastward, the 2-hour trip encompasses some of the most enchanting and scenic portions of the waterway. Here, the Danube cuts through a narrow valley where ancient castles and old monasteries crown the banks, presenting a vivid historical account of the various peoples who control the river. One of the prettiest towns along the river is Dürnstein, where the boat stops, allowing a visit to the old monastery founded here in the 15th century. Older yet, dating to the 1100s, are the fortress ruins which rise high above the town. Dürnstein is a historical gem with its charming streets and ancient houses. Further downstream, Krems is another stopping point for the boat and a chance to walk the quiet streets of this well-preserved town. Krems is a study in architecture, where each narrow street presents a different perspective. Along the streets, the intimate facets of life can be observed, and I just hope there's somebody in there. Having seen the highlights of the Danube, we follow the course of the river to Vienna, that great capital city, and then we'll travel on to Eisenstadt. The heart and soul of Austria is Vienna. In part, the city's magnificence and grandeur is reflected in its colossal buildings, such as those of the Hofburg. Built and rebuilt over 6 centuries, the former imperial courts of the Habsburg dynasty contain a treasure house of history. Until the empire was dissolved in 1918, the ruling family resided in the royal apartments located within this vast complex. As the growth of the city encroached upon the Hofburg, even the surrounding gardens could not provide the privacy needed, and so Schönbrunn was built as a summer home for the ruling monarchs. Containing over 1,400 rooms, the palace and gardens reflect the influence of Maria Theresa, who made Schönbrunn her main court residence. Her apartments, unchanged from the 1700s, present a fascinating view of the private life of the imperial family. Adorning the palace is the double eagle, symbolic of the Austrian-Hungarian twin monarchy. The beginnings of this great city developed here at Stephansplatz, now an open pedestrian mall. Adjoining it, the Cathedral of St. Stephen's is a magnificent example of early Gothic architecture. Restoration has revealed portions of an older church dating back to the 12th century. Its elaborate tower soars over the city, offering some indication of the vast collection of art treasures held within its walls. A carriage ride is an enchanting way to see this old-world section of the city, and while waiting for their customers, their drivers will waste no time. The famous walking street of Vienna is Kärntnerstrasse. Located here are the interesting shops and outdoor cafes. No tour of the city would be complete without visiting one of its best-known institutions, the coffee house. Down the street, Sluka's has the correct setting, charm, and a tradition going back almost 100 years. Along with that goes a reputation for outstanding pastries. Adolf Jobsman is working under an apprenticeship program. For 3 years, he will train here while attending school 1 day each week. When finished, he will be qualified to manage a pastry shop or be employed in the food service field. A very popular item at Sluka's and throughout this part of Europe are the hand-fashioned open-faced sandwiches. Assembling them gives Paul Preem quite a challenge. Bread, spread either with butter or mayonnaise, is garnished with bits of ham, eggs, sardines, or other morsels. Brushing with gelatin retains freshness and helps to preserve the appearance and flavor. Nearby, Parliament houses the legislature. Austria's president, elected by popular vote, serves for a period of 6 years. Defeat in World War I led to the formation of a new republic, reducing the country to 1/4 of its previous size. From its lost holdings were carved territories to form new countries such as Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia. Interwoven with the turbulent and triumphant years was always the creative thread of music. The State Opera House was built to bring that treasure to the people. Vienna's parks pay homage to its great musical geniuses. Mozart, creator of an unbelievable array of operas. Franz Schubert composed over 1,000 works in the 31 years he lived. Johann Strauss, known as the Waltz King, set the world to dancing. His music represented the very soul of Vienna and the Danube. So profuse was the outpouring of music from Vienna, its influence spread to the outreaches of the city, to little towns like Baden. Here, Beethoven spent several summers, and in this very house composed his 9th Symphony. Baden's proximity to Vienna makes it a convenient base for touring this area. For many centuries, this charming resort has been recognized for the healing properties of its mineral waters. During the grape harvest in the fall, a different type of healing takes place. Called the grape cure, participants follow a special diet for 3 weeks. It includes eating 1 pound of the fruit 1 hour before each meal. Recognized since ancient times for their ability to purify the system, the grapes can also be consumed in the juice form. In addition, the diet includes light meals of vegetables, whole grains, and small quantities of protein. The tradition of the grape cure has evolved into a festival held in Baden every September. Just as the talents of Beethoven brought fame to Baden, the genius of Franz Joseph Haydn left its mark upon the town of Eisenstadt. Creator of the classical symphony and the string quartet, this brilliant composer lived in this modest home, which is now a museum. Haydn served as the musical director of the Esterhazy Palace, summer home of Hungarian royalty. He often strolled through the palace grounds, gaining inspiration for his music. When he died, the charming Church of the Calvary became his final resting place. Just to the east, the Neusiedler Sea, a large, marshy, shallow lake, is remnant of a vast prehistoric inland sea. It is also habitat and feeding ground to many species of waterfowl. One particular kind has made the town of Roost an interesting attraction. The homes of the large birds can be seen on almost every chimney in this small village. In the spring, the famous storks return to roost after spending the winter in Africa. A pair of storks will mate for life, returning year after year to the very same nest to lay eggs and rear their young. The legend of the birds bringing babies probably stems from an observation of their strong nurturing instincts. About 1/5 of the country is extremely productive in agriculture, that area lying on the far eastern edge of Austria. All manner of fruits and vegetables along with cereal grains are grown here. Traveling inland, we'll visit the Iron Mountain near Eisenerz and the city of Graz. The heart of the steel industry is centered in this mountainous area. Blast furnaces producing millions of tons of iron every year are supplied by the mine near Eisenerz. Nestled beneath the imposing mountains, Eisenerz has for hundreds of years been home to the miners. Even the bell in the church tower formerly rang to announce the hours of changing shifts. The town clusters around the fortified walls of the old parish church dating back to the 1500s. Of the 11,000 people who live here, most are employed in the mining industry. Rising above the town is the incredible sight of the Erzberg, the largest mountain of iron ore in Central Europe. Since the beginning of the Iron Age, men have been carving away at its valuable deposits. At an annual rate of production of 3 to 4 million tons, it is estimated the mountain could produce for another 70 years. Under government ownership and operation, at any time only a small fraction of the 13 miles of extensive mining face is being excavated. Well, the iron ore of the Erzberg helped develop the industry of Graz, today the second largest city in Austria. During the 1600s, when the Turks threatened invasion, Graz's arsenal became a storehouse for an amazing collection of armaments. Row upon row, some 29,000 pieces in all, are housed in this 4-story arsenal, as if still waiting for the battle to begin. Displayed here is the craftsmanship of master ironworkers and the raw authenticity of war in the Middle Ages. Rising 400 feet above the city is a bluff, accessible either by cog railroad or winding staircase. Crowning it is the landmark of Graz, the clock tower. When Napoleon's troops invaded and destroyed the adjacent fortress, a pledge of money by the townspeople saved this tower. The charm of Graz lies in its old-world atmosphere, where every turn of the corner reveals an amazing display of architectural genius. Herrengasse is the main shopping street and the heart of the city. Adjacent, a playground offers a few moments of fun. If Mom will only give a guy a chance. In this same area, the produce market is as popular as any grocery store. Local independent growers rent space in this market, which is open each morning. All manner of flowers, fruits, and vegetables are sold here during the summer season. Austrians prefer shopping for produce items that are picked daily and freshly prepared. Supplying the market of Graz are small farms and outlying areas comprising some of the most agriculturally productive land in all of Austria. A special type of pumpkin is grown here for only one purpose. That is to take the seeds, which are dried, ground up, heated, and then pressed. Produced is a liquid called kernel oil, which is very popular for use in salads and other food dishes. However, the principal crop of this agricultural area is grapes. For centuries, the rolling hillsides, blessed with sandy soil, good drainage, and sunny skies have been laced with vineyards. In this setting, a chateau dating back to the 11th century is home to Fritz Melchior and his family. Fritz is the third-generation Melchior to have lived in this house, which was originally purchased by his grandfather. It was from him that Fritz learned the science of grape cultivation. Since that time, he has made it his life's work, becoming recognized for his expertise. During the time of the harvest, Fritz visits the fields whenever possible to check on his workers. These pickers are Polish refugees who are temporarily seeking asylum in Austria with the hope of immigrating to another country. After the harvest, the grapes are transported back to the chateau where the entire processing and storage takes place. Here, Fritz's wife, Yolanda, samples the fruit. This crop, harvested in late September, will be marketed in Germany under the brand Schloss Melchior. Next, we'll visit Klagenfurt and Millstatt, two lakeside towns. But on the way to Klagenfurt, there's a most unusual gas station. Surrounding it and covering the hillside are dozens of whimsical figures. It's hard to imagine who would take the time and effort to carve and paint so many lively and colorful faces. Obviously, someone with a sense of humor and talent. And both of these qualities belong to Jacob Schrader, owner of this station. Jacob, in his spare time, does this carving using tree stumps he finds on his property. He has been carving these figures for over 10 years and is so proficient he can, in a matter of minutes, rough in the facial features. His intention is not to sell them. He seems to be just happy seeing his customers enjoy and comment on the characters he portrays. So when traveling this way, stop by at Jacob Station and say hello. Klagenfurt, a city of 80,000, is capital of this southern region. Although somewhat industrialized, this well-planned city center has a tranquil and quiet charm. This relaxed way of life fits in well with its climate, which is mild and sunny during the summer months. Symbol of the city is its famous dragon, carved from a single rock in the 17th century. Legend tells us this prehistoric monster inhabited the swampy area nearby and was finally slain by local farmers. One of its famous buildings is its 16th century Landhaus. Formerly an arsenal, the structure now houses government offices. The oldest part of the city is the Alterplatz, which retains a certain nobility with its attractively decorated buildings. It is here that one can find a basket to suit almost every occasion. Especially popular are baskets lined with colorful fabric for shopping in the fruit and vegetable markets. Some are looking for a basket to suit a special need, and others have already found it. On the outskirts of the city is the beautiful lake, the Wörthersee. Warm waters fed by thermal springs make it most popular for all kinds of water sports. Scenes like the Pilgrim Church of Maria Wörth add to the vacation paradise image. Another sought-after vacation spot is the village of Millstatt. This small, sleepy downtown is somewhat deserted because everyone seems to be out on the lake. Located above Millstatt is the Alpen Rose Bio Hotel, where all furnishings are made from natural materials. Fresh vegetables grown organically in their own gardens are prepared each day. Guests choose either a vegetarian or more traditional diet. Pouring whole wheat into a grinder, owner Matilda Opweger is an enthusiastic exponent of natural foods and surroundings. Whole grain breads are baked in a special clay oven. The fuel is native wood. The guests usually stay 1 to 2 weeks, paying a daily rate of only $40, which includes all 3 meals. Emphasis on health brings the Dean of Fitness, Billy Dungle, from Vienna to share his philosophy of body conditioning. It was he who designed a special pad for running in place called, naturally enough, the Billy Dungle pad. A 7-minute workout each day leads to increased foot circulation. Every morning after the poolside workout, the group jogs through the forest. Although taking part in this exercise program is not required, most guests welcome the opportunity. While some get their workout this way, further up the mountainside, Marie and Paul Auer get all of the exercise they need by working at their chores. The couple live up here during the summer months. Paul tends a herd of cows brought here to graze on the green mountain meadow. The animals belong to several farmers who entrust Paul with their care. It's necessary to measure each cow's milk production occasionally so that every farmer will be paid accordingly. Some of the milk is processed into a special farmer's cheese. Differing from traditional methods of cheese making, this uncomplicated process is easily adapted to these remote locations. Several hours later, when the cheese is set up, the mold is removed. After aging about 1 week, it's ready to eat, and the flavor will improve with time. Glaciers of this mountainous region formed many lakes, such as this one of the Weissensee. Usually a quiet summer resort area, on this occasion a flotilla convenes to welcome a special attraction. Once a year, tradition brings members of local brass bands together to perform on a large floating raft. Next, we'll visit Zeder House with its charming festival, Heiligenblut, and finally, Hallstatt. The church in the small village of Zeder House is focus of an unusual event held here every summer. Preparation involves wrapping poles with wildflowers that have been fashioned into long chains. Each pole requires 40,000 tiny blossoms gathered from the fields and at least 300 working hours to assemble. Work is no deterrent to this farm community of Zeder House because this custom has been enacted without fail for as long as can be remembered. Legend tells us that it all began in earlier times when a plague of June bugs infested the harvest. To ward off a recurrence, the villagers vowed they would arm themselves with long poles, which in time evolved into these highly decorated flowered columns. The event is now celebrated June 24th on St. John's Day. Leading the procession, the clergy is followed by townspeople dressed in typical costumes of this region. Balancing the 20-foot poles presents a challenge to the young men chosen to carry them. For many weeks prior, they will practice using iron chains to steady the pole, which can weigh 100 pounds or more. So strenuous is this task, the bearers are frequently replaced. The festivities culminate in a religious service. Afterwards, the poles will be taken back to the church, where they will remain until Christmas. Traditions such as these continue to live on in these small villages, isolated by the mountains. Another mountain nearby, the Kufstein, is located in the heart of the country's great natural resource, lumber. Timber and related pulp industries employ about 1/5 of the country's population, as well as account for a valuable export product. Of course, some lumber is used in home construction. An undeveloped housing industry with few commercial developers results in most Austrians building their own homes. Working on weekends, completion time is usually 3 to 5 years. Members of the family work together, sometimes hiring friends or contracting out specialized jobs. When the house reaches a habitable state of completion, the family will move in, finishing it in the following years. This house, located near the small village of Tomsvig, would sell for about $85,000 when completed. Well, while these men work, the downtown square of Tomsvig awakens to a special celebration. The tradition is the Samson Parade. Named after the character from the Old Testament, this Samson evolved into a military figure revered for his strength. History can tell us little of these two dwarfs, perhaps a humorous contrast to emphasize the stature of Samson. Portraying this character must be a man of considerable strength to carry this figure 20 feet tall and weighing 150 pounds. And this young man hopes that someday he'll have a chance to try it. The enthusiastic reaction is always the same when during the summer months the two dwarfs, accompanying Samson, dance in the village of Tomsvig. Heiligenblut is a magnificent setting for this 15th century parish church. Backdrop to the Gothic steeple is the mighty Grossglockner, the highest mountain in all of Austria. This gigantic range sealed off this area until recent times, when a toll road opened up travel here. The lure of the mountains has beckoned climbers from all over the world, and even a mountaineering school was established here many years ago. In symbolic dedication, tribute is paid to those whose lives were claimed by the Grossglockner. In this majestic setting, the small village square of Heiligenblut attracts vacationers who come to seek its quiet charm. Many years ago, even centuries before mountain climbing became a recognized sport, this area held another fascination, and that attraction was gold. Early miners combed the mountains, eventually depleting the treasures until the mines finally closed in the late 18th century. Today's prospector is of a weekend variety with only a superficial interest in finding gold. Experts say that the gold is all gone, and yet who knows, even experts have been known to be wrong. Clinging to a mountainous lakeshore is the incredibly beautiful town of Hallstatt. Some believe it is the oldest settlement in Austria, giving its name to Hallstatt men, Neolithic people who 3,000 years ago built their homes on stilts in this lake. On this special day, the church beckons the faithful. At the town square, people start to congregate, for a most important sacred ceremony is about to begin. For this is the day of Corpus Christi, the celebration of the sacrifice of Christ. It has been observed throughout the Catholic world since first introduced in the 1200s. After the service in the square is completed, the ceremony continues on boats in the lake, and the people of Hallstatt reaffirm their faith as sounds of the choir echo across the lake. And as our journey draws to an end, this pristine setting reminds us once again of the beauty, the splendor, and the richness of life that is Austria.